Hey there, future tech whiz. Ever feel like you're just one tiny line of code away from landing that dream tech job?
It really all comes down to nailing that interview, doesn't it?
You got it.
Mm.
And that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. We're tackling the world of ICT test analysts. You know, those meticulous masterminds making sure our digital world hums along without a hitch, no bugs in sight. Got an interview coming up? Well, consider this your secret weapon.
Think of it as your own personal prep session, your guide to not just answering those tricky interview questions, but absolutely wowing those hiring managers.
And the cherry on top, we've got insider tips coming straight from RoleCatcher's Career Guide and their incredible AI platform.
We're going to decode what those interviewers are really looking for and how RoleCatcher can be your secret weapon when it comes to crafting answers that'll make you stand out. Ready to jump in?
Absolutely. Let's do it. Let's start with the basics. What does an ICT test analyst actually do all day? It's kind of like being a digital detective.
That is a fantastic way to put it. RoleCatcher describes it as assessing software, systems, and apps with a keen eye for detail, ensuring they meet the highest standards of quality and accuracy.
So they're the ones catching those annoying bugs before they can cause any real trouble.
You got it. They're designing and running these super detailed test scripts, basically putting those tech creations through the ringer. It's their analytical minds and killer problem-solving skills that make sure we have a smooth, enjoyable user experience.
Sounds like they're the unsung heroes of the tech world. But let's be real for a sec. Why should someone listening to this think, hey, this is the career for me?
Well, according to RoleCatcher's Guide, this career path is seriously hot right now. The tech industry is booming, and companies are practically begging for skilled ICT test analysts. Plus, the earning potential is pretty darn good, if you know what I mean.
Okay, so bugs can be pretty lucrative. But it's not just about the money, is it? What are some of the other perks of this career path?
It's an awesome field for anyone who loves to keep learning, to be constantly challenged. The tech landscape is always changing, always evolving, which means you'll be on the cutting edge, exploring new tech, expanding your skill set all the time.
That sounds exciting, but also really demanding. This isn't a career for someone who's afraid of a challenge, right?
You hit the nail on the head. It's fast-paced, and it demands resilience, especially when you've got deadlines breathing down your neck. But for those who thrive in that environment, it is incredibly rewarding, I can tell you that.
Okay, so let's say you're ready to take the leap and totally ace that interview. RoleCatcher has given us 10 common interview questions to work with, and they've even included some potential follow-up questions.
Let's break those down and make sure you're crafting answers that'll really shine.
Perfect. Question number 1, and this one's a classic. Can you explain your experience with test automation tools? What are they really trying to get at with this one?
They want to see those practical skills in action. It's not enough to just rattle off a few tool names. You've got to show a deep understanding of how these tools make testing smoother, how they boost efficiency, and ultimately how they save everyone time and money.
So instead of just saying, yep, I've used Selenium, you'd want to explain how you actually used it in a real project.
Exactly. Give specific examples. Did you use Selenium to automate those repetitive tasks like regression testing? Did it help you improve your test coverage? The more concrete your examples, the better.
And this is where RoleCatcher's AI can really come in handy, isn't it?
You know it. Their platform digs into job descriptions and figures out the exact tools and skills those employers are after. It can even help you tweak your answers to include those magic keywords and phrases they're looking for.
Talk about a secret weapon. Okay, question number 2. How do you ensure your test cases are comprehensive and cover all aspects of the system? That one sounds tough.
It is, but it's also a golden opportunity to flaunt your methodical testing approach. Interviewers want to see that you have a system for uncovering potential issues, a process that ensures you're not missing a single thing.
So what does a systematic approach actually look like in the ICT testing world? Where do you even begin?
It always starts with a rock-solid understanding of those requirements and design specifications. Think of it like building a blueprint. You need to pinpoint every single scenario a user might encounter, even those unusual cases most people wouldn't even dream of.
And then you prioritize those scenarios based on the risk involved.
Exactly. Not all bugs are created equal. You'll need to demonstrate your ability to figure out which issues would have the biggest impact on users and then focus your testing efforts accordingly.
Again, having those concrete examples lined up and ready to go is key here, right?
Absolutely. Let's say you were testing an e-commerce platform, for example. You might want to mention how you prioritize testing the checkout process, the payment gateway integration, or any potential security vulnerabilities over, let's say, the overall look and feel of the product page.
That makes perfect sense. And once again, RoleCatcher is there to help you brainstorm those relevant examples tailored to the specific roles you're interested in. Okay, let's move on to question number 3. Can you explain your experience with defect tracking tools? Now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty.
This one's all about showcasing your understanding of the complete defect lifecycle. It's not just about finding those bugs. It's about knowing how to document them, track them, prioritize them, and resolve them all with maximum efficiency.
So which tools should you be ready to talk about?
Jira is a big one, almost a given. It's everywhere in software development. But there's also HPALM, Bugzilla, and a whole bunch of others. The key is to choose tools you know well and can really dig into.
And be prepared to explain exactly how you've used those tools in your previous roles, right?
You've got it. Have those concrete examples lined up. Did you use Jira to log bugs, track their progress, and work with developers to get them fixed? Did you create detailed reports to highlight the impact of those defects? These are the kind of details that make your answers pop.
And don't forget, RoleCatcher can help you tweak your CV to highlight your experience with these specific tools. Their system analyzes those job descriptions and pinpoints the keywords that really matter to recruiters. Okay, moving on to question number 4. And this one focuses on a particular testing approach. Can you explain your experience with black box testing?
This one throws some people off, but it's really not as scary as it sounds. Imagine you're testing something, a gadget or whatever, but you have absolutely no idea what's going on inside. That's basically black box testing. You're just looking at what you put in, what comes out, and figuring out if it's working right.
So you're focused on how the system behaves, not necessarily why it's behaving that way.
Exactly. You're on the lookout for those unexpected results, things that don't quite line up with how the system is supposed to work. You need a good strategy for that, which is where techniques like equivalence partitioning and boundary value analysis come in.
Whoa, those sound pretty technical. Can you give us a quick rundown of what those are?
Sure thing. Equivalence partitioning is basically about grouping similar inputs together. Instead of testing every single value under the sun, you pick a few representative samples from each group. Makes things a lot faster. And then there's boundary value analysis, which focuses on the edges of those input ranges. That's where errors are most likely to pop up.
Clever. It's about working smarter, not harder, as they say.
That's the ticket. And when you're answering this question in an interview, focus on the specific techniques you use, the challenges you face doing this type of testing, and how you've overcome them. It shows you can handle the black box, so to speak.
And remember, folks, RoleCatcher can help you back up those experiences with real-world examples tailored to the jobs you're really interested in. Speaking of showcasing your skills, question number 5 asks, can you give an example of a complex test scenario you have designed and executed?
This is your time to shine. Pick a scenario that really highlights your technical skills and your problem-solving superpowers. Don't be afraid to dive into the nitty-gritty talk about the specific tools or techniques you used, the roadblocks you hit, and how you make sure you got a successful outcome.
It's like telling a story, but a story that proves you're the testing expert they need. And speaking of stories, RoleCatcher's AI can actually help you structure your answers like a pro. It'll nudge you on what to emphasize and how to present your experience in a way that really grabs those recruiters' attention.
It's like having a storytelling guru in your back pocket. Now, on to question number 6. This one's all about performance. Can you explain your understanding of performance testing? This goes deeper than just making sure the software works right.
Right. It's about making sure it works well, even under pressure.
Exactly. We're talking speed, responsiveness, stability, all those things that can make or break a user's experience, especially when you've got tons of traffic or huge amounts of data flying around.
So how do you explain performance testing in a way that shows you really get it, you've been there, done that?
Focus on the different flavors of performance tests. There's load testing, stress testing, endurance testing. Explain what makes each one unique and what it tells you about the system's limits.
And don't forget to mention any relevant tools you've used, like JMeter or LoadRunner, if those ring a bell.
Absolutely. The more specific you can be about your experience, the better. Okay, let's switch gears a bit and tackle question number 7. Can you explain your experience with security testing? In this day and age, this stuff is more important than ever.
You said it. Data breaches are a nightmare for everyone.
Yeah.
Interviewers want to know you're serious about security. That you get it.
Precisely. And that you've got the skills to sniff out those potential vulnerabilities and shut them down. We're not just talking about running some antivirus software here. You need to understand all sorts of security threats, things like SQL injection attacks, cross-site scripting, the whole 9 yards.
So you might want to talk about techniques like penetration testing, where you basically simulate real-world attacks to see where the weak points are.
Exactly. And don't forget about tools like Burp Suite or Nessus. Those are the go-tos for this kind of testing. It's about showing them, the threats and the tools to combat them.
And if security testing is something you're truly passionate about, let that shine through. Speaking of passion, did you know RoleCatcher's AI can analyze your tone and how you're speaking during those practice interviews? It helps you project confidence and that you're genuinely interested.
It's like having your own personal performance coach. Okay, ready to tackle question number 8. This one delves into a more technical realm, API testing. Ready to dive in?
Let's do it. But first, for those who might not be familiar, what exactly is an API? Let's break that down.
Think of an API like a messenger, a go-between that lets different software systems talk to each other. Like when you're booking a flight online, the website uses an API to chat with the airline system, check for available seats, prices, all that good stuff.
So API testing is all about making sure those messages are sent correctly, that they're secure, all of that.
You nailed it. You're checking the functionality, the reliability, the performance, and the security of those APIs. It's about making sure those systems can talk to each other without any hiccups.
So what are some key things to highlight when you're answering this question in an interview?
Definitely mention tools like Postman or SOAP UI. Those are specifically designed for API testing. Talk about your experience with different API protocols like REST or SOAP. And as always, having concrete examples of API testing projects you've actually worked on can really make your answer stand out.
It's all about showing, not just telling, that you had the skills to get the job done. And speaking of skills, RoleCatcher's platform has a massive library of practice interview questions, over 120,000 of them, covering all sorts of tech skills and concepts.
It's a goldmine if you want to figure out what your strengths are and where you might need to brush up a bit. Okay, shall we move on to question number 9?
Let's do it. Hit me with it.
All right, question number 9. How do you manage test data in your testing environment? This one sounds like it could get a little hairy.
It can, but at the end of the day, it's really about being organized and responsible with that data. You definitely don't want to be using real customer data when you're running tests as a recipe for disaster.
100%. That's where test data management comes in. You need to create data sets that are realistic, of course, but also anonymized, so you're not putting any sensitive info at risk.
So what are some things you should focus on when you're answering this question in an interview?
Definitely talk about your process for creating that test data, how you store it, how you manage it. Do you use data masking techniques to keep that sensitive information under wraps? How do you make sure your data is accurate and consistent? Have you worked with databases or any data generation tools? All those things are relevant here.
It's all about showing them you can handle data responsibly, that you know how to keep things organized and efficient. And remember, RoleCatcher can help you spot any gaps in your knowledge or experience here, and even point you towards relevant courses or resources to fill those gaps. Okay, are you ready for the final interview question?
Bring it on.
All right, the 10th and final question is, can you give an example of a test plan you have created and executed? This one feels like the ultimate test, the big kahuna.
You could say that. It's your chance to bring it all together, show them you can plan and execute a whole testing strategy from A to Z. Pick a project where you were really in the driver's seat, developing and implementing the test plan.
Walk them through it step by step. What were you aiming for? What was included? What methods did you use? What were the results? Don't be afraid to get into the nitty-gritty.
And highlight those wins. Did you uncover any showstopper bugs? Did you nail those testing objectives? What did you learn from the whole thing?
This is your chance to really showcase those analytical chops, that ability to learn and grow from your experiences. But before we move on from that perfectly crafted example, let's loop back to RoleCatcher for a sec. How can their platform help with this final question?
RoleCatcher can help you tell that story in a way that really clicks. Their AI can actually look at your answers, pinpoint areas where you can tighten things up, even suggest ways to quantify your impact, use numbers to back up your claims.
It's about taking your experience and turning it into a story that really resonates, one that proves your worth as a potential employee. Okay, now that we've tackled those 10 essential interview questions, let's zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture. What does your career trajectory as an ICT test analyst look like? Where can this path take you?
RoleCatcher's guide paints a pretty exciting picture. And the good news is, it's not some rigid linear path. You can really tailor it to what you're passionate about, what you excel at.
So it's not just about climbing a ladder, but maybe more like exploring different branches of the tech tree.
Exactly. You could become a senior test analyst, leading the charge on bigger, more complex projects, or you could go deep, specialize in a specific area like performance testing or security testing. Become the go-to expert. And if you're a natural leader, you might even end up in a test lead or even a quality assurance manager role.
So many possibilities. But let's rewind for a sec. So let's say you're just starting out. How do you stand out from the crowd, especially with so many people vying for those tech jobs?
That's where those practical skills we talked about really make all the difference. Having that hands-on experience, even if it's not from a traditional job, can be a game changer.
Like what?
Yeah.
Any tips for someone fresh out of school or still building up their resume?
Volunteering for testing projects is huge. There are tons of open source projects out there just begging for people to help out with testing. You can also look for internships or even part-time gigs that involve some software testing. Every little bit counts.
And RoleCatcher can help you find those opportunities, right? Like connect you with things that match your skills.
Bingo. Their platform is designed to help you find those perfect fit opportunities. It's like having a digital matchmaker for your career. But it's not just about those tech skills, though, is it? We got to talk about those all-important soft skills, too.
Oh, for sure. Those are crucial, especially in a field like this where you're constantly working with developers, project managers, actual human beings.
Exactly. Communication is key. You've got to be able to explain complex technical stuff in a way that everyone understands, whether you're writing it out or explaining it face to face.
And let's not forget about staying cool under pressure. Tight deadlines, unexpected bugs popping up, things can get a little crazy.
Resilience is non-negotiable in this field. Remember, it's not just about pointing out problems, it's about being a team player and finding solutions together.
Okay, so you've aced the interview, landed the job, you're elbow deep in code. How do you keep those skills sharp? How do you stay ahead of the game in the tech world, especially since it's constantly changing?
Continuous learning, that's the name of the game. Tech moves at lightning speed, so you've got to stay in the loop, keep up with the latest trends, tools, methodologies. It's not optional.
Do you have any suggestions on how to do that without getting completely overwhelmed? There's just so much information out there.
Online courses and certifications are a great place to start. Organizations like the ISTQB, that's the International Software Testing Qualifications Board, they offer some seriously valuable certifications that can boost your cred and your earning potential at the same time.
It's like leveling up your tech skills in real life. Any other tips for those climbing that tech career ladder?
Network. Get out there or, online, attend industry events, connect with folks on LinkedIn, join those tech communities. It's all about sharing what you know, picking up tips from others, and building your professional circle.
And RoleCatcher can even lend a hand with that, right?
100%. Their platform has resources for finding relevant events, connecting with mentors, even getting personalized career advice. They've got you covered.
Speaking of RoleCatcher, let's circle back to how their AI can be your secret weapon throughout this entire journey, from crafting that perfect resume to absolutely rocking those interview questions.
Their CV Builder is a game changer, seriously. It helps you build a professional, ATS-friendly CV that'll make you stand out from the crowd. But where it gets really interesting is how their AI analyzes job descriptions, picks out those keywords, and suggests improvements to make your CV really shine.
It's like having a personal brand manager for your career. What about interview prep? We talked about those 10 sample questions, but what else does RoleCatcher bring to the table?
They've got over 120,000 practice interview questions covering pretty much every tech role and skill you can imagine. You can even filter them by specific competency, so you're really honing in on your weak spots.
Wow, that is seriously impressive. And you can actually practice your answers and get feedback from their AI, right?
Yep. Their AI analyzes everything, your tone of voice, your pace, even your body language, to give you that next level feedback you need to really nail it.
Talk about a game changer. So whether you're just starting your tech journey or you're already a coding superstar, RoleCatcher has your back. We've covered a ton of ground today, from figuring out what an ICT test analyst actually does to acing those interviews and charting your course for a successful tech career.
And remember, in the tech world, the learning never really stops. Embrace it. Never be afraid to ask questions, and you'll go far.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about building that strong foundation of knowledge and skills. Those are the tools that will serve you well no matter where your tech journey takes you.
And remember, RoleCatcher is in your corner every step of the way, from that very first interview to landing your dream tech job.
Feeling empowered. You should. You've got this.
Go out there and knock 'em dead.